Welcome to my channel. Today I am changing things up. I am clearly not in my studio. I am at my house because I don't want to talk about exercise. I don't want to talk about fitness. I want to change gears and talk to you about nutrition. Specifically, let's talk about calories versus macro counting. What's the difference? Why should you do one over the other? What should you personally do right now in your fitness journey? And which is more important, trying to hit your macros or trying to hit your caloric needs? And that's kind of a trick question, but we'll talk about that in just a second. First off, when it comes to the hierarchy of fitness goals, whether you are trying to lose weight or trying to gain weight, it all comes down to your caloric intake. If you are trying to lose weight, you have to burn more calories than you take in. So you need to be in a caloric deficit. If you are trying to add weight, you have to be in a caloric surplus, right? You have to take in more calories than what you're burning. And that can be if you are trying to gain weight or you're trying to gain muscle. Muscle requires a lot of energy. So if you are trying to quote unquote bulk or add more muscular tone, you do have to go into a little bit of a caloric surplus. When it comes down to it, calories are the most important thing. But here's what I want you to think about. You could live off of 2,000 calories of bread, right? But are you going to feel your best? Chances are not so much. Your body's not going to be running optimally. You're not going to feel very fueled. If you are working out consistently, those workouts probably aren't going to feel very strong. You can also have other issues going on with your body due to an imbalanced nutrition program. And that's where macros come in. Macros are just kind of there to help balance out the overall plan of things to make sure you're getting the proper macronutrients, your carbs, your protein, and your fat that your body specifically needs to run optimally, to fuel itself, whether it is you're trying to lose weight or gain weight, and to feel your best during the process. You could go into a caloric deficit where you're very unbalanced with your nutrition and feel freaking miserable. Like you feel like you just want to eat your arm off. Or you can go into a caloric deficit where your nutrition is balanced a little bit better and you actually feel full throughout. You're not miserable because you're eating satiating foods to help you still feel really good as you're going out throughout the day so that you're not thinking about hunger all the time. So it's really, really important. If you have never calculated your calories before, that's where I would start first. Like if you're brand new to trying to track your nutrition, I would not jump in and just say, go all in, track everything, try to be perfect. No, take baby steps with the process. I do think that it's important if you are trying to go into a caloric deficit or a caloric surplus to first figure out where it is that you're at currently. What does your normal nutrition look like? If you've been at a pretty stable place with your weight, then you know that whatever you are eating right now is your maintenance calorie level, right? So if you want to try to lose weight, you have to eat below that level. So that's why tracking is so important. And there's a lot of things throughout the day when it comes to mindless snacking or just kind of eating little things here and there that you don't think about that can really add up. And that's why I think having that data, that tracking can really help get you fired up to know what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong, right? Sometimes we think that we're eating in a caloric deficit, but when we really go down and track everything, we realize that's not the case at all. I don't recommend calorie tracking for everybody, especially if you have a history of food obsessions or whatever disordered eating you may have had in the past. But if you have a healthy relationship with food and you are looking to change your body, I do think that tracking is important and that calorie tracking specifically is the first place to start. Once you do that and you get comfortable with it, then I recommend going more into the macronutrient side of things and starting to just divide up your calorie tracking a little bit more. And we're going to divide your calories that you have into specific protein needs, fat needs, and carb needs. The first one being protein needs is where I recommend everybody starting with. So after you've done your calorie counting for a little bit, then start trying to still hit that calorie level, but also starting to hit your protein levels. And for most people, that's between 0.8 grams to 1 gram of protein per pound of body fat. And it is on the little bit of the higher side, but when you're trying to lose weight, your body wants to make sure that you are safe for the long run. It doesn't know how long you're going to be in a calorie deficit. And fat holds on a lot of energy. So for your body to try to stay safe, its natural tendency is to actually hold on to your body fat and let go of your lean muscle mass, because that's a really easy way to help decrease your natural metabolic rate. And so of course you don't want that to happen, right? You want to get rid of your body fat. So to help with that, if you increase your protein level intake while also sticking to a strength focused workout plan, that's going to tell your body, I need my muscle mass. You can't take this away from me. Take away the body fat instead. So that's why protein level is so important. With a whole bunch of other issues, it is important for recovery, it's important for metabolic function and protein production. So yeah, you definitely don't want to go low on the protein. So 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body fat. And that's where I recommend just starting to track. Don't worry about hitting your fat goals. Don't worry about hitting carb levels. Just focus on getting that protein and hitting your calorie information. Once you get both of those and you feel comfortable with that, then maybe you want to also start focusing a little bit more on hitting a specific fat goal or a specific carb goal as well. In general, you want 25 to 35% of your daily calories to come from fat, and then about 40% of your calories to come from carbs. What does all of that mean? So I recently got the question saying, if I still have leftover macros and calories at the end of the night, should I aim to hit for my macros or should I aim to hit for my calories? Well, here's the thing. If you hit your macros, you should be hitting your calories, because that's where your macros come from. So let's take, for example, a 2,000 calorie diet. If I want to do just the classic 40% carbs, 30% protein, 30% fat, balanced nutrition equation for an example, what I would then look at is say, okay, so I've got 2,000 calories, 40% of that is 800. So, and I did do my math so that I don't mess this up for you guys. So 800 calories is 40%, right? So 1 gram of carbs has 4 calories. So then if I take that 800 divided by 4, that's 200 grams of carbs that I'm going to be hitting per day. Then I'm going to do that same idea with 30% of fat. So I'm going to take that 2,000, I'm going to multiply that by 0.3 or 30%, and it comes out to 600 calories. Now fat is a little bit higher in energy, like I mentioned before. So instead of 4 grams per gram or 4 calories per gram of fat, it actually has 9. So what I would do is take that 600 divided by 9, and that comes out to 67 grams of fat would be my recommended daily target for the day. And then finally, we have our protein, which actually I would calculate this first. But 30% of protein, again, comes out to 600 calories. But just like carbs, there's 4 calories per gram of protein. So that would make my protein intake goal 150 grams of protein per day. And if I hit all 3 of those numbers, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to hit my calorie goal as well. If you still get there to the end of the night and you haven't hit all your numbers yet, I would look at focusing to hit your protein goal. I'm not a big believer of trying to stuff yourself to hit your calorie number if you're not full. But if you're trying to aim for which one should I do, then I would make sure to hit my protein at the end of the night versus anything else. And so then the question becomes, well, if that's the case, how is it possible that when I'm using my tracking app that things don't even out? Why am I hitting my macro goals, but yet I still have calories left over, or I've gone under, or I've gone over my calories? What the heck is up with that? The biggest thing with that is either human error, sometimes measurements are off. The biggest issue being that apps like MyFitnessPal, while they are fantastic, and that is what I personally use, because anybody can plug in information, it's not always accurate. So every time you think you might be doing really well, if your numbers don't equal up to 100 along the way, it's probably just some kind of human error when they were putting that data in. But bottom line, you don't have to track macros to see results. It really does truly come down to calories in versus calories out. However, if you want to do it where you feel your best, you look your best, your body is the healthiest it can be throughout the process, then maybe looking at macros is something for you. Now, if you have any more questions about this, let me know down in the comments. And if you want me to talk more about nutrition as we move forward, I'm happy to do that with you as well. I'll make sure to share all these numbers down below just to kind of give you an idea of how you can put together your own macronutrient profile, so to speak, to play with it. The last thing that I want to say is that not everything is written in stone. You can do any of those macro calculators to figure out what your calories are and what your macros are, and they may not work for you, right? Because nothing is like 100% proven to be effective. Like there's no exact equation to find out what I need versus what you need. So you gotta kind of play with it a little bit. And that's why I think that keeping track of this stuff is so important. I like to tell my clients to give themselves 2 to 3 weeks with a set amount of numbers, and we can always make tweaks off of that. So if they're trying to lose weight, but they are staying sedentary with their results, or maybe they've gained a little bit of weight, that means we need to tweak things, and vice versa. So be open. Don't think that just because you're not seeing the scale go the way that you want it to, or your clothes changing the way that you want it to, because I'm not a big fan of the scale, it doesn't mean that you have failed. It just means that the specific numbers that you were using weren't quite dialed into what you need. So change them up, try again, and it's gonna work out just fine for you. Again, if you have questions, let me know. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, and I'll be happy to do more nutrition focused videos in the future. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Talk to you soon.